The last thing you want here for fantasy football in 2019 is to have a player on your roster that busts. And there's a group of players out there that are really busts or buys. Who are they? Hit the like button, because I got a few names you don't want to miss. What is going on, everybody? Jake, Fantasy Headliners. Hopefully everybody's doing good. Hey, listen, today we're talking about fantasy football busts and fantasy football buys. There's a few players that are kind of on the fringe that you may not really know what to do with. We're going to discuss a few of them here today, and we're not going to take a whole lot of time getting into it. Make sure before we check out these names, head over to our website, thefantasyheadliners.com. Lots of great information over there, and our draft guide is on sale right now. Put in for a pre-order. Should be coming out by June 30th. Also, need some help here on YouTube. If this video can get 300 likes, I'm going to pick 3 random people in the comment section and give you free draft guides. So make sure you're hitting that like button and leaving a comment down below to have your chance at a free draft guide. But now let's talk about a few fringe players that are either fantasy football busts or fantasy football buys. All right, let's kick it off with a rookie here. We have David Montgomery, running back for the Chicago Bears. And is the hype train out of control? I feel like everybody and their mother is talking about David Montgomery now, and the guy was one of the top running backs in the draft, so it's deserved. But already we're seeing his ADP go through the roof. As of right now, he's into the 4th round of fantasy football drafts. Holy crap. Is he worth that? We've never seen him play an NFL down before. The guy is talented, though. He's had 250 carries each of the last 2 years in college. He averaged 4.7 yards per carry and is one of the best running backs that are coming out of this draft class with a mixture of speed and power. He averaged over 1,400 total yards and 12 touchdowns a season, but they did just sign Mike Davis in the offseason. I mean, what was their thought process with that? Was he going to fill that void that was left by Jordan Howard when he left for the Eagles? Mike Davis had a decent year last year. Decent-ish. I mean, he was part of a 3-headed monster in Seattle. But last year, he had 112 carries, 514 yards, 4 touchdowns on the ground, added in 34 receptions, 214 yards, and 1 touchdown in the air. But like I said, Matt Nagy had probably intended on Mike Davis coming over and filling that Jordan Howard role. I mean, Jordan Howard left behind 250 carries when he left for Philadelphia. We know that Tariq Cohen's not going to see that big of an uptick in carries this season. That's really not his style. When the draft came along and they saw David Montgomery right there and he pretty much fell into their laps, like I said, he was arguably the number 1 running back in the draft for a lot of people. And here's where things get a little bit weird. Matt Nagy came over from the Kansas City Chiefs, and David Montgomery is one of his closest comparables that you can say he's kind of like, is really like Kareem Hunt. Similar size, similar speed, similar running style, and now he's once again with Matt Nagy. Did Matt Nagy see something in David Montgomery that really, drew comparison to Kareem Hunt enough that they said, this has got to be our guy? I know we signed Mike Davis, but listen, it's Mike Davis. Who really cares? David Montgomery could be the Kareem Hunt of the Chicago Bears offense. Now, Kareem Hunt was drafted by Matt Nagy in Kansas City in 2017, and that season, Nagy's offense led Hunt to 1,700 total yards and 11 touchdowns. Now, I don't see that type of production with David Montgomery right here off the bat. It's a gamble with his 4th round ADP. He's a slam dunk for dynasty leagues. Does he come right out and get a full workload? That's going to be the question. If you're investing a 4th round pick on this guy, more than likely you may have to start him. If you want him, if you believe in the process, and I do believe that David Montgomery is the real deal, you're going to have to be willing to risk it for the biscuit on this one, because the guy is going to take some time. Make sure you draft a little bit of extra depth at the running back position if you do take David Montgomery. But in my eyes, this dude's a buy for 2019. Let's move on to a second-year wide receiver now, Calvin Ridley of the Atlanta Falcons. A lot of people really high on Calvin Ridley. A lot of people have him pegged to be a high-end wide receiver too here in 2019. But really, I mean, what really has changed from last season? Now, don't get me wrong. He really showed flashes as a rookie, and he finished with 64 catches, 821 yards, and 10 touchdowns. The problem for me was really the issue with consistency. He started the season off so hot. He had 15 catches, 264 yards, and 6 touchdowns in his first 4 games. After that, he only went over 70 receiving yards 3 times the rest of the season and added 4 touchdowns, but 2 of them We're in the last 2 games of the season. Not much has really changed in Atlanta. Julio's still going to eat up a ton of targets. Mohamed Sanu's going to be involved in the offense. And even though there's a butt ton of people out there that do not believe in Devonta Freeman, he's still going to be a part of this offense. Austin Hooper could take a step forward. There may be an Ito bit of a problem in the backfield. I still think he has a solid season overall, but he's really going to struggle with week-to-week consistency. Is that something you want to deal with? Is it going to be solely matchup dependent? Is it going to be, hey, the teams that he's supposed to dominate, they get a big lead in the beginning, rely on the run in the second half, and he doesn't see those extra targets? Is he touchdown dependent? There's so many questions with Calvin Ridley right now, and in the 4th round, I just can't see him getting a big enough bump in targets from his 2018 numbers to really propel him into that, upper wide receiver 2 tier. Can't do it. Not with Calvin Ridley. The talent is there, but as long as Julio Jones and Mohamed Sanu and Austin Hooper and a solid running game are there in Atlanta, he's just not going to see enough targets consistently for me to buy him here in 2019. For me, Calvin Ridley is a bust in 2019. Kenyon Drake, Miami Dolphins running back now, and in case you haven't noticed, I may be a little bit higher on Drake than a lot of people are. I think the value is really there for him here in 2019. There's a new coaching staff in Miami. No longer Adam Gase and his ridiculous backfield touches. What was going on with Frank Gore and Kenyon Drake? Frank Gore, being 236 years old, was out there just racking up carries. Kenyon Drake's value was just being sucked dry by one Frank Gore, but new coaching staff there now coming over from New England, Brian Flores. This team is used to seeing Kenyon Drake perform. Why? Because historically, some of Kenyon Drake's best games have come against the New England Patriots. He's capable of playing all 3 downs. We kind of saw him be involved in that pass-catching role last season, and we've seen him with success run between the tackles. And that value is just, it's crazy. He's a 5th-round ADP right now in fantasy football mock drafts. He finished last season as running back 14 in PPR leagues, despite only getting 120 carries. He's never had more than 133 carries, so what could this guy do if he got a full workload? What would Kenyon Drake produce if we could get him in that 225 to 250 carry range? So I took his career averages and I projected them over a 16-game season. If you were to do that and give him right around 250 carries, he would get you approximately 1,175 yards, 8 touchdowns on the ground. Now, I mentioned he was a great pass-catching back capable of 3-down work. Last season, he racked up 53 receptions for 477 yards and 5 touchdowns through the air. If you add those 2 numbers together, it equals 295 PPR fantasy points, which would have made him good enough to be running back 6 in 2018. Now, I can already hear you guys out there, and you're probably typing in the comment section right now, he's not going to get that much work. There's no way he's getting that many touchdowns. He's not built for that. Yada, yada, yada. I get it. So even if you regress these numbers slightly, maybe you don't think that the touchdowns are going to be there. Whatever it may be, there is still a 50-point cushion between him and RB10. So he's got some room to play with in order to get into that top tier of running backs. Do I think he's going to be an immediate running back 1 this year? No. But the chips are in his corner, and he's going to have a decent opportunity. I'm not immediately worried about Kalen Ballage. Yes, I think he sees some work on 3rd downs and throughout games, but the bulk of the work should be going towards Kenyon Drake. He is a great running back 2 value in your fantasy football drafts. He really allows you to take some of those stud wide receivers early, because then you can still get a solid running back 2 there in the 5th round. And here's what I want to do. I want to start a new hashtag here for Headliner Nation in 2019. Did a lot of hashtags in 2018, and this may be one of our first new ones for 2019. And it's going to be for one Kenyon Drake. We're going to go hashtag give Drake the load. That's what we're going to go with. I know it doesn't sound sexy, but that's what we're going to go with here for 2019. In my opinion, Kenyon Drake is an absolute buy in all fantasy football formats here for 2019. Moving on to one of the biggest question marks here in 2019, it's Eric Ebron, tight end of the Indianapolis Colts, and so many people out there want him to repeat his 2018 numbers here in 2019, but is it realistic for Eric Ebron? Now, he had a great 2018, 66 catches, 750 yards, 13 touchdowns, but really, I think he may have benefited from all the injuries that the Colts pass catchers suffered. I mean, we had T.Y. Hilton, Chester Rogers, Ryan Grant, Jack motherfucking Doyle. They all missed time in 2018. And then here in the offseason, they added Devin Funchess, who I know has sucked in the past. But come to think of it, I know of another pass catcher who's come to Indianapolis who had continually underperformed in his career and had a great season, a great breakout type of season. Who was that? Oh, that's right. It was Eric Ebron in 2018. Could Devin Funchess come in here and steal some of those 21 red zone targets that Eric Ebron saw in 2018? And then what about Jack Doyle? Can he stay healthy? I mean, you have to think he eats into the production some. Doyle and Ebron played in 5 games together in 2018. In those games, Doyle had more red zone targets, regular targets, and played a higher snap percentage. Now, Eric Ebron has a 6th round ADP. Personally, I would rather hold off and take my chances with the likes of a Vance McDonald or a Jared Cook, maybe even an Austin Hooper later on, because Eric Ebron is totally primed to regress this year. There's so many more options. We didn't even mention Paris Campbell being inserted this offense. Can Marlon Mack stay healthy? Naheem Hines a part of the pass catching? I mean, there's so many weapons in Indianapolis, and there's more than ever if they can stay healthy to take away some of those touchdowns. If those touchdowns regress, Eric Ebron is not what we're all hoping he will be. I have him as a bust for 2019. Last guy on the list is going to be Sterling Shepard, wide receiver of the New York Giants. And really, what could Sterling Shepard be in this offense with the New York Giants now that Odell Beckham is gone? I mean, he's always been in the shadow of Odell Beckham, but now Odell's gone, moved on to Cleveland, leaving behind 150-plus targets that are now up for grabs in this offense. They did sign Golden Tate, and he's going to see the bulk of those targets left behind. However, already 2 out of the last 3 seasons, Shepard has seen over 100 targets. So any slight bump in target share for Shepard is kind of like, extra frosting on your cake. It's great because we're already going to see around those 100 targets. Anything extra, it's a bonus. And it's sounding like Tate's going to move into the slot and force Shepard outside. Now, he's currently getting drafted right around the 9th to 10th rounds of drafts. But what I'm seeing is there's a lot of other wide receivers around him that have really proved less in their careers. I mean, he's surrounded by the likes of Corey Davis, Cortland Sutton, James Washington, DK Metcalf, D.D. Westbrook. I mean, there's a bunch of guys there that we haven't seen a whole lot of, if anything, from here in their NFL career. I would at least rather take my chance with somebody who I've seen produce at this level. Now, I'm not saying that Sterling Shepard is a must-own asset. I'm not. What I'm saying, though, is there are very few wide receivers with his current ADP that we can easily project to eclipse 100 targets on the season. If you get to the later rounds and you need a wide receiver, the value of Sterling Shepard due to his weekly workload could be a very, very welcoming pick here for your fantasy football team here in 2019. He's going to see volume, and at that point of the draft, what kind of other volume are those receivers going to get? They're all question marks. Take the proven commodity. Give yourself a little bit of bench depth that has weekly upside still. Sterling Shepard is going to be a buy for me here in 2019. All right, so those were a few busts and buys here for 2019, but there's lots of players to choose from. Maybe you have questions about somebody we didn't talk about today. Leave them down in the comment section down below. I would love to interact with you. We are one of the most interactive channels on YouTube. You leave a comment down there. I'm going to answer it in some way or form, and not just with some 1 or 2 word answer like you get from other channels around here. We greatly appreciate the support. Remember, if this video can get 300 likes, I will pick 3 random people who leave comments on this video and give them free draft guides here in 2019. So make sure you're hitting that like button. Make sure you're leaving the comments down below. And if you're new here, consider subscribing. We love to have all kinds of fun with fantasy football. Really appreciate the support. Look forward to hearing from you guys. Have a good one.